In today's lesson, toda ku discuss evaporation. We are still looking at different ways of separating mixtures. Tiri kuita the topic separation, and now we are looking at evaporation as a method of separation. So the first thing we have to learn is that evaporation is used to separate a liquid from a soluble substance. And the example we have is salt and water. So let us put this down as a note. So the point we have put down is evaporation is used to separate a liquid and a soluble substance. Example, water and salt. So in order for us to understand this properly, let me take you back a little bit. In order for us to understand this point properly, I have to take you back a little bit. So takadzidza many or several different ways of separating, out of separation. But when we looked at filtration as a way of separation, takati, when you are using filtration, pakarepo when you are using decanting, you are going to be separating a liquid and a insoluble. Then takanyora futi tichiti undissolved solid. Then we defined insoluble cannot undissolved solid as a solid which does not dissolve in a liquid, for example in water. Saka example yataipa panapa, it's water and sand. And because tinoziva kuti mavu dissolve in water. So sand is an example of an insoluble kana kuti undissolved solid. So when we want to separate a liquid, typically water, and a solid which does not dissolve in that water to form a solution, typically sand, we are going to use either filtration kana kuti decanting. But situation yatava nayo manje ndiye kuti, what if we have a solid and which can dissolve in water? And example yatataura panapa, water and salt. Talking about water and sugar. We know that salt dissolves in water to form a saline solution, kana kuti a salty solution. Sugar dissolves in water to form a sugary, cannot a sweet solution. Saka kana tine situation yekuti substance yacho yatruda kuita separate away from water, kana kuti from a liquid, dissolve in that particular liquid. That is when we are going to be using evaporation. So to stress this point, evaporation is used to separate a liquid and a soluble substance. When you are writing this down, be it in an examination or in an assessment, be sure to include this part. The solid should be soluble. Kurewa kuti we are dealing with what? We are dealing with a solution. So this is the first point we put down. Then the second point is, what are soluble solids? Because in science we should have proper definitions of things. So kana chitaura pamusoro pema soluble solids, tukutaura ma solids are not dissolve in a liquid forming a solution. So soluble solids dissolve in a liquid, and when that happens, we have what? A solution. And example, a solution yatinoshandisa in most cases is the salt and sugar solution. Kana kuti drink ratinomwa. solution yemasowe, orange crush and water. So we have many solutions which we use in everyday life. Kuti tive ne solution, we need a soluble solid and which dissolves in water. But an example I used, ndotaura pamusoro pemasowe, orange crush and water, and we know kuti masowe is a liquid and water is also a liquid. Saka we can also have a solution from two liquids. But for the sake of this lesson, we are assuming kuti our typical ideal solution as per this lesson should be between a soluble solid and a solvent. Let me put this down. Saka kuri kuti truda kuzviisa in mathematical format, tiri kuti a solution inenge iri equal to a liquid plus a soluble solid dissolved in liquid. That is what a solution is. A liquid plus a soluble solid inodissolve liquid yacho iyoyo. We can put it down like this. Tinogona kuti a solution tikada kunyora in more scientific terminology. A solution is equal to a solvent plus soluble solid. Saka kana tichiti solvent tirongoreva a liquid. So what happens is this. Let us say we have toda ku mixa our ngatiti our sweet solution munomandi. Saka umu tiri chi toda kuti muve ne a sweet solution kana kuti sugary solution. Ndo zvatiri kuda. For this sugary solution, we know kuti we need sugar yacho, then we also need water. And saka tine sugar, then tine water. Water inoi inge ichinzi a solvent. Kureva kuti it is the agent in which a soluble solid dissolves. And ndiyo inofacilitator kudissolva kwacho because this soluble solid iri kudissolva mumvura. Saka a solvent tikutaura pamusoro pe the medium of dissolving. Munodissolviwa macho ndo inenge chinzi a solvent. Then sugar, of course, typically tirikuti this is a what? A soluble solid. Saka nachitaura pamusoro pe solvent tikutaura pamusoro pe the medium of dissolving, which is a liquid, and in most cases it's water. And I think we have sufficiently defined a soluble solid. Our next point is going to be evaporation. Now, as a process, it removes the solvent from the solution. That is what it does. Saka evaporation ndozvinoita evaporation. It is going to remove the solvent, the liquid, from the solution. In most cases, we do not even want to collect the liquid. But when we want to collect the liquid, the process becomes more like distillation. And if it is required in our syllabus, we are going to look at it. But for now, by evaporation, we typically do not want to collect the liquid because it's ordinary water. What we want to collect, the soluble solid. But yet our next lesson, where we look at the applications of these separation methods, tichatarisa how this method of evaporation is used to collect salt from saline cannot salty water. We take seawater. How can we collect salt from seawater? We are going to learn that in our next lesson. But to add flesh to what we are saying now, let us just pull up this image. Saka image yataisa on our blackboard iri kutiratidza the process of using evaporation as a separation method. Saka we have this evaporating dish matinoisa our solution, then we are going to heat with a Bunsen burner, and then we have water evaporating kana kuti ngatiti we have our solvent kana kuti liquid. So we have the solvent, we have the liquid evaporating away as steam. Then pa base panapa ndo patichaita macrystals macrystals are the soluble solid we want to collect. So let us looking at this diagram, let us add a few notes which explain the diagram to us. So when using evaporation, the solvent is usually left to evaporate as steam and the soluble solid is collected. Example, collecting salt from saline water. So this is the point we want to put down. So as I said, tichatarisa this process of collecting salt from saline, salty, kana kuti seawater in our next lesson. But for now, the point is saying when we are evaporating, kana kuti using evaporation as a method of separation in chemistry, the solvent, which is in most cases water, is usually left to evaporate as steam because we have water in abundance. And the soluble solid is collected as crystals. And for example, when we want to collect salt from saline salty water, a simple experiment you can conduct even at home. Take water, then take some salt. Motora salt yakati one day. Then you put it in water, you stir to quicken the process of dissolving to form a salty saline solution. Then after that, take that bottle, mamnenge mamixira your water and salt, pour it in a plate, then mavamaisa panze panenge paine zuva. Wait for a few hours, you are going to see that salt crystallizing at the base of that plate. And if you wait long enough, mvura yese ichaevaporata, muchangoramba kana kuti muchasara muine that salt. That's basically what we are talking about. But let us double down on the procedure. Ngati borimai pa procedure panapa, because you are expected to conduct these experiments on your own, and to be able to do that, you must know the algorithm. By algorithm, I mean the step-by-step manual of conducting these experiments. So the first thing you do, you are going to pour the solution in the evaporating dish. Madira solution yenyu mu evaporating dish. What are you going to do next? You have to heat gently with the Bunsen burner. Sakana makambopinda mlab, you must know what a Bunsen burner is. If not, a quick Google search inokuratidza kuti Bunsen burner inenge yakaita sei. ndo lighter yatinoshandisa in laboratories. Saka you pour your solution in a evaporating dish. Then secondly, you heat the solution gently using a Bunsen burner. After that, what are you going to do? Heating manje inoitei. So heating saka chinoitika manje, heating is going to cause the solvent, which is the liquid, to start evaporating as steam. So pamunoboilisa manje muchishandisa yo Bunsen burner, yo evaporating dish, muchatanga kuona steam. Steam iyoyo, that is your solvent evaporating. But now this net effect is this makes the solution more concentrated. Let us illustrate this. So firstly, let us just discuss in passing kuti chii chinokonzeresa evaporation. Saka we have our evaporating dish like this, handitika. Then tine a Bunsen flame iri kudi yatiri kushandisa panapa like that. So chiri kuitika ndechekuti patinohita apandi pane heat energy yatiri kuisa mukati this solution. Saka tiri kuwedzera chi heat energy. This is physics, but I think we just discuss it in passing. Saka taita energize ma particles emvura ne solution yedu anenge ari mukati muno. Ma particles emvura ne soluble solid. Saka mvura ndo white, soluble solid nde iyi handitika. Taita energize panapa. Taita energize this solution. Ma particles mvura anenge ari kumsoro kunoko achagaina enough energy which is converted to kinetic energy to escape. Saka kuescape kwacho ndo uku manje uku as steam. Maona. Saka kuhita kwatinoita the solution, tiri kuintroduce heat energy into the solution. That heat energy ichakonzeresa chi vibration, kuvibrata kwema water and soluble solid particles ari mukati me solution. Kuvibrata ikoko, that's kinetic energy. Kinetic energy ichawedzera to the extent yekuti the water molecules are going to be able to escape. They escape into the atmosphere as what? As steam. That's evaporation. Now, zvirikuitika ndezvekuti let us assume kuti musolution medu munomu tanga tine 100 water particles tobva taita 60 salt particles like this. Chinongo evaporata chete are water particles. You can do your own research to explain why my salt particles asinga evaporate, why asinga gain enough energy to escape. And it comes down to the chemical structure of salt, that's sodium chloride, and the chemical structure yacho of salt particles kuti kubonda kunenge kwaita sodium and chlorine kuno like the bond really between my particles acho, how strong is it, can it be broken and stuff. And there are a lot of reasons. You can conduct your own research. It's slightly above our pay grade when it comes to combined science, but it's a necessity when you want to understand science as a whole. But now chandrungotaura as a stated fact ndechekuti water particles are the ones which escape. Saka ngatiti patatanga kuita paitika this evaporation pa escape 30 water molecules kuroti panapa pasara paine chi 70, but 60 achangoramba akadaro. Saka we are going to have water particles reducing in number due to evaporation, asi masalt particles achingoramba akadaro. So we are going to eventually get to a point where we have fewer water particles and more salt particles. Izvozvo zvinowedzera chi? Zvinowedzera concentration. Saka concentration iri dependent on the soluble solid, in our case salt. That's where concentration is dependent upon. Saka patiri kutaura tichiti evaporating and it eventualizes or leads to the solution being more concentrated. It is because we are losing water particles in the solution, but salt particles are remaining as they were before. So that is very important. Now we can actually put this down. Saka patango explainer in simple English zvatanga tichiexplaina kuti we are losing more water particles but ma-particles esalt aruramba akadaro. More generally, we are losing more solvent particles but ma-particles esoluble solid ari kungoramba akadaro. Ndo zvinokonzeresa kuti tive ne-more concentration on the part of the solution. So as more solvent is evaporated, the soluble solid begins to crystallize. Saka as we lose more water particles in our example, salt particles begin to crystallize. Kana chiti crystallize, tiri kuti makaita that simple experiment, you are going to see it for yourself. Muchaona kuti salt yacho yamanga maisa yanga iri fine coarse salt turi tumabhora tudikidiki, asi inozobuda after ma separator by way of evaporation tunge takaita tumasheet turi tumacrystals tatochinja form. That is because of this. So as more solvent is evaporated, the soluble solid begins to crystallize, kuforma ma-crystals. So the crystals of the soluble solid begin to form on the base of the evaporating dish, as I tried to illustrate here. Aya ndo anenge ari ma-crystals. Imimi munenge matoisa salt inenge iri fine and like this, maybe toti ndo salt yamunenge maisa, but ma-crystals enyu manje anobuda ari something like this. Kusiyana ikoku manje, it's also a lot of science kuti nemaka echichinja in form. You have to research this out to understand it. But when it comes to understanding evaporation as a separation method on a very basic level, we have done our due. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. If you want to learn with us through tutorship, extra lessons, you can contact us via WhatsApp on the numbers which are going to be displayed on your screen in the next moments. Thank you and take care.